Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another ZD Toys Iron Man unboxing and review video. Now today, yes, we are taking a look at the Mark IV. I mistakenly said in some of my previous ZD Toys videos that this guy wasn't released yet, but y'all headed down to the comments and let me know, no Justin, it's out. It's been out for a while. So of course I had to go ahead and pick it up. I do believe it's the Mark I and the Mark VII that aren't out yet. So whenever they release, I will be picking them up and of course reviewing them on the channel. As always, if you are looking to pick this guy up, he is in stock right now with ToysWonderland.com. Link for that is, of course, down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. What we are going to do now, though, is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. And here, of course, we have the box art for the Mark IV. I have to say, so far I've been really impressed, especially with the unboxing experience for the price point on these ZD Toys figures. We do have an image of the figure right up here on the front of the box, plus the arc reactor poking through the center. Iron Man 2 in a proper embossed font on the side, and a beautiful metallic back. Another image of the Mark IV. Now I don't know if they've stuffed something up here, but they have printed Mark III multiple times in the blurb. Do let me know if you know what that says down in the comments below. Now on the inside we do have this magnetic inner piece. We do have a gorgeous image of the Mark IV with that same arc reactor that was poking through the front there. And here we have the figure himself. As I said, I've been super impressed with the unboxing experience on the previous figures, but also the figures themselves. The Mark VI was my favorite of the bunch, and for those of you who don't know, the Mark IV is pretty much identical to the Mark VI, save for the arc reactor and a couple of different colors here and there. More on that later on in the video. Now you can see he does come with one tray down below, so what we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. And here we have all the bits and pieces that come with the Mark IV. Let's start off by taking a look at the display base first. Weirdly enough, it says Iron Man versus saying Iron Man 2. Not exactly sure why they didn't put the 2 on there. They did it for the Mark V. It's a little bit peculiar, but you can see Mark IV. It does have a nice translucent post with a waist grabber up on top. But if you have seen my other ZD Toys reviews, you do know that it also comes with the crotch grabber. Then you can take the clips that come on the waist grabber off and combine them to make what I like to call the ultimate grabber. You can combine it and then have both supporting mechanisms there. It's a nice touch and something they didn't really have to do. Now you do get 4 blast effect pieces. They are relatively nicely done. There's a darker orange and it fades to a lighter yellow up the top there. And yes, you can take the repulsor blast hands and peg them in. You can also peg them on the feet, which again, I do appreciate. Lastly, you do get an array of hands. The little repulsor is painted in, and so too are the teeny tiny little joints between all the fingers. Overall, yeah, it's the exact same style of hand that we got with the Mark VI. What we are going to do now, though, is get the Mark IV itself out here and take a closer look. And here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. He looks really darn good, as I was expecting him to. We've already basically seen this suit. It's almost identical to the Mark VI, just with a couple of different pieces here and there and also different paint applications. But overall, he's pretty much the same thing. And I loved that Mark VI. I said it was my favorite one of the ZD Toys releases. Does this guy replace the Mark VI as my new favorite? No, I don't think he does. There's just something about that triangular arc reactor that does it for me. This guy is great as well, and he uses some of those awesome parts and pieces, meaning, yes, he can pull off a ground pound pose, but the Mark VI is still my favorite so far. What we are going to do now, though, is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. And here we have him up close and personal. As to be expected, just like the other ZD Toys Iron Man figures, this guy looks totally awesome, even up close under a microscope. The paint applications are suitably gorgeous, it's got a metallic sheen to it, it's super glossy. You can see the gold also looks really nice and metallic. I have been told in my previous ZD videos that yes, these do scale better with Marvel Select figures than Marvel Legends. However, recently I did pick up some Marvel Legends figures, so I will be able to do a proper size comparison to give you an idea how these guys scale with some Legends releases. Now this guy unfortunately does suffer from the dead eye and dead arc reactor look. Someone did leave me a comment and say that they were going to paint theirs and then that would rectify the issue. That's probably the route I would go as well, just some transparent blue paint on the eyes and also on the arc reactor, just to give it a little bit of life, because the Mark III with the light up effect looks totally fantastic. It is also worth noting that the flaps do function just like on the previous figures. There is detail underneath and it's done in a super nice sharp gunmetal with a bunch of sculpt work on the inside. That looks fantastic. So too does the detail in the arc reactor. You can see there is a proper sculpt to it, the various different sections. There's actually a little bit of depth behind there as well, as if there is something sitting behind that glass or acrylic style window there. It's a really nice touch. You can also see the pinstriping is present down here on the abs, just like the Mark VI, because of course, for those of you who don't know, these suits are pretty much identical, just the chest is different and also some of the paint applications. You can see there is gold on the outside of the arm, whereas the bicep itself is gunmetal on the Mark VI, whereas on the Mark IV it's red and gold, and then on the legs there is far more gold on the 6 and a little bit more gunmetal, but the sculpt itself is identical between the two. And yes, that is accurate to the movie. I think that's why I like the Mark IV so much. It's such a unique design compared to the Mark III, which was a little bit softer. This has a super hard, militaristic, badass looking edge about it. And honestly, I think that's why I like this design. But yes, my favourite still is the Mark III, just because it is the OG. Which do I prefer out of these two though? Well, I personally will lean towards the Mark VI. I am curious though, which of these two do you prefer? Let me know down in the comments below. Lastly, coming down to the feet, that same really awesome sculpt work and that gorgeous metallic red paint. You also do have some peg ports on the underside, so you can plug in those blast effects. So yes, overall another super strong release by ZD Toys. Now for our quick side-by-side comparison, here we have finally a Marvel Legends figure to compare and see how the scale does work. Or should I say, doesn't work. As you can see, Cap is a 6-inch scale figure, Iron Man is a 7-inch, so it just doesn't work. He is far too tall. Maybe if you had it in some kind of crazy dynamic pose you could get away with it, or if you had Cap in the background and Iron Man in the foreground, that could potentially work as well. But for me personally, they're two separate lines. I think you just go with one or the other. By the way, while we have him out here, I'm really impressed with this Cap. I managed to pick up only half of the Disney Plus wave just because my local store sold out of Scarlet Witch, US Agent, and the Winter Soldier for some reason, but not to worry, I will be picking the rest of them up, and we will discuss them on an upcoming livestream. And lastly, here we have him alongside the rest of the ZD Toys Iron Man releases to date. It's almost time to assemble the Hall of Armor. All we need is the Mark I and the Mark VII, and I'll be one happy Iron Man collector, at least for my 7-inch scale figures. For Hot Toys, we're still waiting for that Mark I diecast. Nevertheless, these guys look fantastic together. I love each and every single one of them. The only thing that would encourage me to buy more of these would be, number one, if they started doing other stuff aside from just Iron Man and doing it better than some of their earlier releases like the Civil War stuff, and also if they went back and added light up features to all of these. That would encourage me to get them all over again. However, I'm loving how this looks. I'm curious. Let me know what you think of this lineup so far down in the comments below. Just going over articulation on the Mark IV. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now, it's also worth noting the articulation scheme is identical to the Mark VI, so if you've seen that video, feel free to skip over this articulation segment. The head itself is on a ball joint, but also on a slider forward and back, so you do get a fairly decent range of motion in pretty much all directions. The arms themselves can go up to about there, they will go forward the full way, and yes, the shoulder pad can nicely pivot and swivel to get out of the way of the arm itself. The arm can also be pulled out slightly to activate the butterfly joint. There is a swivel at the bicep, a double bend at the elbow, plus a ball joint down here at the wrist. The torso itself has a fairly limited range of motion until you split it apart, and then you can get even more swivel and pivot side to side. The legs themselves are the same way, forward to there. Unless you drop it down, then they can go up slightly higher. Swivel at the upper thigh there, a double bend at the knee, and a swivel side to side at the ankle for the foot. Just wrapping up on the ZD Toys Iron Man Mark IV. Now, I'm not going to say a whole lot of new stuff in this conclusion because I'm pretty sure you already know how much I like this guy based off my previous ZD Toys reviews. He's fantastic, the paint applications are on point, the articulation is great, the price point is exceptional, the value for money here is pretty much unmatched in my opinion. You get a fantastic unboxing experience with a nice hard cardboard box and magnets and actual material pull tabs and display bases and effect pieces plus multiple hands. It's just insane to think that in this country, being Australia, a Marvel Legends Iron Man figure is more expensive, feels like a lesser quality item, and comes with less stuff. Plus, the paint applications aren't anywhere near as good. This guy is insanely awesome. I cannot recommend this line enough. If you love Iron Man, like I'm sure a lot of people do, you owe it to yourself to pick this guy up if 7-inch scale figures are on your radar, because yeah, he is that darn good, and so too are the rest of the line. Stay tuned because soon I will be reviewing the rest of the figures and hopefully completing my 7-inch scale haul of armor. If you are looking to pick up any of these ZD Toys figures, they are in stock right now with toyswonderland.com. Link for that is of course down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. Also, while you are down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.